Pop in, say hi. If you've never come into one of my lives before, hi, I'm Cindy. I explore the inside and the outside. We'll see who pops in first tonight. I am going to take a wild guess. No, I'm not psychic. I just know who's super consistent around here. So I'm going to say Owen is going to be in first tonight. Welcome, you guys. This is my Sunday night live show. This is Chatters Live. I call it Chatters Live because the people who come in and hang out with me on Sunday nights chat. What did I say, you guys? It is Owen. Because the people who come in and hang out with me, they chat more than I do. They keep that conversation going. And I am grateful to have them. Grateful it's Sunday night and the sun is still out. The sun has not even started to set yet. We're in summer. We didn't get a spring this year, but we got summer. Just went straight from winter to summer. So pretty cool. Yeah, I went for a walk today. Went and got myself a cup of coffee. Let me have a sip. And I was sitting here waiting for my live to happen. I was cleaning up my desk and wiping off my laptop because I had little splatters of everything all over it. You know, I am so proud that I actually, set myself straight and made sure that I got this laptop. It served me so well. One of the best decisions that I have made in the past few years, I would have to say. We're just going to give it the past few years because I've made a lot of great decisions in the past. I don't know. In my life, I have stumbled on to opportunities, events, experiences, conversations, and friends, strangers to begin with, but move into relationships that have just served me so well that I could say, right, I've made some good decisions, but I think it was just in me saying yes, right? Me saying, what if, right? You can do it. Hello, Eugene. Oh, Tammy's in here too. Andrew's in here too. Everybody's popping in. I said I took a wild guess before I went live here with I was telling everybody because I had like 10 seconds before Owen popped in and I says, I know who's gonna pop in first. I says my people are pretty consistent in showing up. And that's the truth. For everybody that's in the live right now, they've been with me since the very beginning for 10 years. Oh my goodness, I still have my sunglasses on. I went for a walk this afternoon, you guys. Oh my goodness. I don't know. A little bit of sadness came over me. And, knowing me, I just kind of dwell on it. Not dwell on it, just kind of, why? Why do I feel this way? It was a little bit of sadness. And I knew right away what it was because I had just walked by a car dealership. I was looking at nice vehicles. I was kind of feeling not sorry for myself, but sad, right? A little sad because I'm looking at houses, and I'm looking at yards and I'm enjoying my walk, but I'm looking at things that I wish were in my life and I don't have these things in my life. And it was kind of amazing that I recognized when I felt down there for a couple of minutes why I was feeling down. And it's not that I, begrudge anybody that because I have my own abundance in my life. I do, right? When I went for my walk this afternoon, well, it's a Sunday. It could have been a Monday or Tuesday, and people could have been at work. People could be doing yard stuff. Oh, I like doing yard stuff too. Well, they could have been doing stuff in that moment that I don't like to do. And it doesn't even have to be in that moment. It's just in that appreciation that people have to work hard for the things that they want, right? That people have to work those really hard jobs for the most part in order to afford their fancy vehicles. I saw some really neat vehicles today. I found a Ford Runner. I don't know if you guys know what a Ford Runner looks like, but I stopped, and it's not like I've never seen the Ford Runner before. I have, but this one was orange and black. It almost made it unrecognizable. And I'm walking around the vehicle just to see what the little tag is on the back, what kind of vehicle it is, who makes it. And I went, oh my goodness, this is a Forerunner? Says, I don't know if it's a new one. So I looked at the sticker on the window for the mileage and what year it was. And it was a 2023. It wasn't even a new vehicle. It was like 3 going on 4-year-old vehicle. It was the color that got me. And it had some nice tires. You guys know I like the monster tires on the vehicles. So I kind of did feel a little bit sad because, you go, oh, I wish this was mine, right? That was the feeling. Oh, I wish this was mine. This is so beautiful. And then I'm feeling bad as I'm walking down the sidewalk and I'm feeling kind of sad. And I went, why am I feeling like this? I'm outside. It's a beautiful day. I'm wearing shorts and a nice light top. And, you notice I just took my sunglasses off. It was a gorgeous day. And I took a roundabout way. I said I was going to go for a walk and get a cup of coffee. It's a few miles away. But I took the long route, right? I kind of went down a few blocks so I could walk in the houses and stuff before I could have walked straight on the main drag and been there in 20 minutes, right? But I really wanted to make it a nice walk, right? A nice afternoon walk. I went for a walk yesterday. I want to try and get outside every single day. If it's nice outside, go for a walk or right sit outside in the front with the little old ladies or the little old men and have conversations, cheer them up, right? But I cheered up right away as soon as I recognized why I was kind of feeling bad because all I had to do was thinking about all the wonderful things that are going on in my life, right? That other people don't have, right? I don't have to get up at 7 o'clock in the morning, even though I do get up at 7 o'clock in the morning. I don't have to because I don't have a job that I have to run off to, right? I get to wake up, brush my teeth, make myself a cup of coffee, turn on my computer, take in a few lessons, and then entertain myself, take in a few more lessons, entertain myself, go for a walk, entertain myself, come in, do my lives, right? Entertain myself. And I would have to say that's a pretty nice life, right? That I have kind of created for myself. And then when I say that, I'm making movement. I'm putting the work in. And it's in those relationships and those people that I bump into that I haven't seen for a while, or even complete strangers to be able to have a little bit of conversation, right? There was a woman walking behind me when I was walking home with my cup of coffee. She was about a block away from me, but I felt like she wanted to walk a little bit faster than what she was doing, but she was just trying to keep some space between us. But she caught on that I was looking behind my shoulder, that I knew that she was behind me, and I was looking behind my shoulder, and I could tell that she picked up her speed and she came up beside me. But I think she thought it was the great big dog that she had that I was worried or I was afraid of her dog, and she just wanted to show me that her dog was actually a very friendly dog. And she made short conversation with me, and then we just started talking about our day and how summer was here, and she said how much she appreciated. I said we didn't even get a winter this year. Talking about the weather. Sometimes that's how the conversation goes. It doesn't have to be heavy. And I just kind of chuckle. I says, enjoy it. Tomorrow it's gonna be snowing. And she laughed, right? She laughed. She goes, oh, don't even joke about that. I says, you're right. I says, I shouldn't be joking about that. Summer is here. I know summer is here. It was a beautiful day today. I don't know where you guys are coming in from. Oh, William's here too. Oh my goodness. Hello, William. Hello, William. I have to tell you something that I got. I don't know if you've ever seen one or if you have it, William. I saw today the preview for the Masters of the Universe movie. And I'm sure you got premiere tickets. You're going to be there the first day that it's released. I don't know when it's released. I guess it's going to be pretty soon because I saw a preview for it. But a couple of weeks ago, I picked up the 50th anniversary of the Masters of the Universe. It had the skull castle on the front of the box. It was kind of like an ornament or something. And then when you opened up the box, it had like 12 different cassettes. It had a little sword that was still in the little plastic cellophane, and it had different booklets and stuff. And it was some kind of, oh, I can just show you. What am I just trying to explain what I'm talking about? I can just show you guys. But I listed it. I thought of you when I listed it. And I thought, oh my goodness, William would absolutely just love this. And where are you? Where are you? There you are. Okay, take a look at it. Can you guys see that? Okay, here we go. Guess how much I listed this for you guys? I paid $10 for it at Salvation Army. That's the box that it came in. I paid $10 for it at Salvation Army, and I've got it listed right now for $250. These things sell for $300. They sell for over $300. And this one, they only made 15,000 of them. They only made 15,000 of them. Let me just. They only made 15,000 of them. That's the box with everything in it. I know William is drooling right now, unless he has it. But look at that. They only made 15,000 of them, and I have number 3,660. So I have a very low number on this. Oh, He-Man, that's not Masters of the Universe, William? That's not Masters of the Universe? Silly girl, if it's not. Oh, no, it says Masters of the Universe on the box. It says Masters of the Universe. But yeah, He-Man 30th commemorative collection. And yeah, they sell for a lot of money, and I was pretty excited. To list that, to do. Yeah, for $250. I might put the price down because it's been up for a couple of weeks now and nobody's bit. But supposedly they're pretty collectible. They're pretty collectible. Yeah. So I got a few things that are worth a little bit of money. I actually went into my marketplace today and I kind of put sale prices on a whole bunch of stuff because I haven't been selling too much on Facebook lately. And that's what's been keeping the groceries in my cupboard. Today I actually I'm looking at my cupboard and going, oh my goodness, like, what am I going to make for dinner in my empty cupboards and my empty fridge? And I had a big bag of yellow peas, and I love pea soup. I make green split pea soup with ham all the time. I really, really enjoy it. But I've never made yellow pea soup. Now, the yellow pea soup is actually French soup, right? The French use the yellow peas. And so I made a pea soup. I didn't have any ham for my soup, but I did use chicken stock and onions, and it was absolutely delicious. I made myself the most beautiful soup. I actually have enough to have soup for tomorrow too, right? So I went, oh my goodness, like life is good. So I thought that was pretty cool. Yeah, but yeah, I thought that was pretty neat that I picked that up. And then when I went for my walk, I grabbed my cup of coffee and then I walked the long way home so I could stop off at my little library, and I picked up this book here. And this is like an autobiography. It's a lady's childhood. It's her story waking up and actually waking up. It's like her spiritual awakening that she's done. I'm only in the first chapter, but it caught my attention right away. So this is a book that I'm going to delve into. I haven't even like delved into my other books that I said I was going to read this week. I haven't even looked at them. They're still sitting on my desk. But when I stopped off at the little library today, I picked up this book too. The this I think this is mythology, this book here. I don't know if I'm going to like it, but I'm going to give it a shot. I'm going to give it. It won't be one of the first ones because now I've got 4 books now to read. But I got into this book, and I said, like, this week when I was talking about the books that I pick up in the library, that if the book doesn't catch me in 2 chapters, I always give a book 2 chapters, but if it doesn't catch my attention in 2 chapters, then I'm on to the next book, right? It goes back to the little library, and not necessarily the same library that I got it from, because I have a few little libraries in my neighborhood, and because in my neighborhood there's lots of low income, right? We have a very dynamic community going on in the area that I live in, and so I think, in one of my little libraries, I think somebody might appreciate the books if I donate them. It doesn't really matter where I pick the books up, right? Then I try and take a couple of my own books with me. But a lot of my books I haven't written either. Written? Yeah, I haven't read them either, the books that I have here. So I want to make sure that I don't give away any of the books that I'm going to eventually get to. Then I came home after my walk and I went, oh my goodness, I'm so pooped. I'm so like I'm ready for a nap kind of pooped. And then I got in and I made my dinner and I enjoyed my dinner, and then I cleaned my desk up for my live show, and here we are. How's everybody's week been going, you guys? I'm just coming into the comments here for a minute and see what everybody is up to. Masters of the Universe movie. I'm praying, Cindy, that you get a lot of buyers for your items that you sell on your different platforms and site. I only sell them on Marketplace. My sister sells on eBay, but she only sells in Canada. She doesn't sell any items. She's really sad about it, my sister Alice, because she was doing really, really well. In fact, my sister put a roof over her entire family's head for over 20 years by being an eBay seller. But Donald Trump put the tariffs up here in Canada. So anybody who buys anything from us in Canada has to pay equal value to the item uh, in in the states. So it doesn't make sense to sell to people in the states because, like my Masters of the Universe, if I sold it to somebody in the states for $250, they would pay me $250. But when they picked up the item at the post office, they would have to pay another $250 for the item. And people get really, really upset about that because they don't understand what the tariffs are doing here in Canada. And so we're only selling anything to the Canadian market, not to the American market. But my sister Alice, she's so sad about it. I get it because she made like pretty good living, right? Pretty good living on eBay, but she doesn't want to get her customers upset, and her customers were getting really, really upset, like it was her fault when it wasn't her fault, right? If um, what was it, Donald Trump? It was Donald Trump's fault, right? And supposedly, I heard that he's going to be sending you guys out some checks because the tariffs have been going over so well that the lots of money have been coming into the states. So that'll be good for you guys if you guys get a little check in the mail to help offset the inflation. Because even though we got inflation going on here in Canada, ooh, gas went down 5 cents a liter in the past 24 hours. Went down 5 cents a liter. That's a good sign. I think it's because of the I guess the peace treaty is being signed, right? And things will start going back to normal a little bit. Yeah, that would help if I could sell a few things for sure, right? Because yeah. I was kind of depending on things moving that way. But the thing is with marketplace, they only put the eyeballs on your marketplace if you're consistently listing. And silly me, I went and listed everything all at once so I could get the job done, not realizing that they'll give me lots of views for about a week with all the things I listed, but then everything else just after a week, it just becomes if somebody's looking for it or comes across it, that's when it's going to get an eyeball. So I got to start deleting all my ads. And I wish I had taken pictures with my camera instead of the Facebook app, because now I've got to retake all the photos and I've got to start listing everything all over to get some fresh eyes on everything. And everybody's looking for such a great deal. I get it. I'm always looking for a good deal too when I'm out, right? Masters of the Universe I got for $10. That was pretty good. And I've got it listed for $250. It's just a waiting game. I will sell it. But when, who knows? But yeah, I'll take the prayers anyway, Tammy. If you want to pray for me that way, I'll take the prayers anyway. I appreciate that for sure. Uh Oh, it's coming out on June 5th. Oh, that's still a little ways away, right? That's still what, a couple of weeks? A couple of weeks away till the movie comes out. But I guess you're going to see it the first night that it comes out, eh, William? I know you're a big Masters of the Universe fan. Uh yeah, I got actually two new books, Tammy. I got two new books. But yeah, I think I'm going to read this one here. It's an autobiography. She calls it a memoir, but I think a memoir and an autobiography is probably going to be almost the same thing, right? It's just labeled a little bit different because as I'm reading the story, she's talking about her childhood and stuff, right? So I'm assuming it's going to be like a biography. Um Thank you, William, for the date for that new movie coming out. I will tell some friends that love those movies. I may take my brother to it too. Oh yeah, it's a guy. It's going to be a guy movie for sure. Because I think they just made the cartoon movies, didn't they? This will be the first big blockbuster buster Masters of the Universe movie. Take off like another Marvel comic hero, right? Tammy says, I am sad too with all these tariffs with my beloved Canadian neighbor. Michigan has been affected a lot from it from day one of them. Both countries have suffered. Michigan too. Oh, I guess so because we go over the border to go shopping and stuff, don't we? Right? And then the Americans, when they come up into Canada, right? I guess it becomes a little bit difficult when you want to buy things. I bet you guys bought lots of groceries here in Canada when you came to visit because your American dollar would go a lot further than our Canadian dollar. Because I know we like wait a minute, maybe it's the opposite way around. No, oh, it's only because the Americans have good deals on their groceries, right? You're just naturally a little bit less expensive in the states, and of course here in Canada, we have two taxes. I'm not sure they're eliminating one of the taxes on groceries. I'm not sure if they've done it yet, but they are planning on eliminating one of the taxes just to help people out, with the inflation until things get a little bit back to normal. And I guess, with the signing of the treaty that things might go back a little bit to normal, maybe even a little bit better, right? People be able to sleep a little bit better. I really hope though, that you could sign treaties and you could say, we're not going to have uh plants, nuclear plants and stuff like that, and that might be good. But they're still going to hate their neighbor, aren't they? Right? It's not going to change the way they feel about each other because people have passed away on both sides, and it's hard to let those grudges go, especially when those grudges are directly influenced by losing your family members, right? So it's going to take some time. It really is going to take some time, but I hope not too long. But I hope at the very least that people start settling down a little bit, feeling a little bit better. I was talking when I went up to the little thrift store that I used to work at, and I bumped into people every once in a while when I'm there. And I was talking to one of the ladies I had gotten very close to, and she's from the Ukraine, her and her family. And she had just gotten back from vacation, from a holiday in the Ukraine. And I said to her, I says, but there's a war going on in the Ukraine. And she goes, yeah, but that war isn't everywhere, Cindy. She says, where I was, it was absolutely beautiful. It was a holiday. And I went, are you kidding me? Because when I think like, when there's wars going on, I just assumed that it was absolutely just everywhere's, right? And then she was also telling me about her mother, and I says, "Oh, wouldn't your mom want to come and live in Canada?" And her eyes bulged out of her head. She goes, Not a chance, Cindy. Do you know how expensive it is to live in Canada? I'm thinking, no, I don't. I thought it was right. I don't notice the difference, but that's because I live here. But if I compared it to cities, because you guys know I moved here to Winnipeg, Manitoba when I was 18 years old. But I'm originally from Vancouver, British Columbia, right? And if I compared it to living here, you can't get a house for under $1 million in Vancouver, the city of Vancouver. You just can't get a house for under $1 million. Here in Winnipeg, you can still get houses for under $100,000, right? Of course, the minimum wage is a lot higher in BC, right? But when she said that her mother couldn't afford to live here, I thought about it for a little bit and I just made that comparison to here in Manitoba and living in British Columbia. You can actually see the economic difference between the citizens of those two provinces. So I just compared it like that and I was like, well, I guess people would think that Canada was a very expensive place to live. I never thought of it that way, right? I never thought of that way only because I don't know, maybe the government, and I do come from low income, that the government has a lot of programs and stuff going on to make it so that we don't really notice, right? We don't really notice how expensive it is, right? But we get a lot for our money here, right? I get free dental, free medical. I get a pension plan. Like I have a little pension right now, but I get a big pension when I turn 65 years old, which is only in a few more months, you guys. I think 5 or 6 more months, and I'm going to have a pension kicking in that I'll be able to feel a little bit more comfortable, a little bit more safer in the management of the roof over my head, right? I'm doing a little bit of juggling right now, but it's nothing that I'm not familiar with. I have been juggling my finances my entire life. I really have, right? There have been lots of times when I was flat broke, but created a magnificent existence for myself anyway. Sometimes it was relying on family or friends, lots of times relying on the government in those unemployment checks coming in, right? Just work long enough to qualify to get an unemployment check. And then I was not working. I had a friend who said he was the same way as me. I loved him. I loved him absolutely to death. But he called it, he hated working for the man. He wanted to work for himself. He wanted to be an entrepreneur, right? I don't know why he never did. He tried a little bit being like a mechanic for his friends' vehicles and stuff, but he used to mess up all the time. He liked to piddle with the cars, but he wasn't an expert in any form in fixing vehicles, but he called it working for the man. And, I can appreciate that because when I look back at what I was doing, because for me, it was that authority that, always feeling like at any moment I could get in trouble for something. Even if I could be the very most well behaved, hardest working, cross trained, extra time. In fact, you guys, my only claim to fame, and I don't think a lot of people could say this, but my entire career in working in the workforce, and I've been working since I was, well, before I was 12 years old, but in businesses at 12 years old. This is the 60s and 70s. I was allowed to work. Well, we're going to say the 70s. not the 60s. I was babysitting my sisters in the 60s, but in the 70s, oh yeah, I was working and making a paycheck. My first job was, I think I was 12 years old, and I was a waitress in a restaurant in a hotel. So the only claim to fame that I actually have in my working career is the fact that I have never, ever, ever missed one day of work. How many people can say that? I don't think very many people. Of course, I booked time off for vacations, or if I had a doctor's appointment, I had it booked off. I'd always give them lots of notice, so I would have that time off. But if I was scheduled to work, I was always at my job. Not once did I ever miss a day off at work. And I don't think I've ever worked with anybody who's not missed a day of work in the entire span of their career. And yeah. But I do that, and I in this moment I could be a little bit proud of that. But that only happened because of my mentality, right? My mindset of I don't want people to be angry with me. I don't want to get in trouble, right? I don't want to be disciplined. I don't want to be losing my job, right? So it gave me that same mentality is I don't want to be working for the man, right? I don't want to be working for the man. And that's something I should have said today when I was out on my walk, right? Because lots of people, they have these wonderful things. They have a beautiful home. They got beautiful cars and trucks and all these goodies, right? But they're working for the man, and that's tough, right? Especially if you're sensitive, especially if you're somebody like me who doesn't like to get in trouble. And you could, like I said, you could be the best employee ever. You could come in early. You can do extra shifts. You can not worry about other people calling in sick and do your job and do their job and not say boo to anybody, right? And yet, you know, you're doing that job, right? You're doing that job. And it's only because, right? Because you don't want people to be upset with you. And that's, I think, the only reason because there were lots of times when I didn't feel like, right, going to work. My friends were going to the beach or they were going on trips or camping or something, and I wanted to go too. And I just say, I'm sorry, I can't. I gotta work, right? And I had to be the responsible one. But that's the thing, right? When you are highly sensitive, I'm going to have to say that word meek, right? Because I would think that's what I was. I was too meek to stand up for myself. I was too meek to be irresponsible, right? And it wasn't because I was dependable. I was dependable because I had to be dependable, right? It would have been kind of nice to be the naughty girl, right? Phone somebody in the morning and say, "Oh, I don't feel like coming to work today. I stayed up too late last night." Or get on the phone and go, I got a cold. I'm not feeling good. I don't know how many of those phone calls I've gotten for when I worked in the workforce. And when I said I was that person, like my friend Brian, right, who said, I don't want to be working for the man. For me, I had this trick. I had to work hard anyway. I had to do everybody's position. I had to pick up everybody's slack. I gave them that mentality that somebody's going to be upset with me. I'm going to be in trouble. I'm not going to get the hours that I want on the next schedule. Whatever it was, right? I would do those that extra work. every single time. But one thing about me is when I got into a job, because I had to work hard anyway, my mindset, I had to work hard anyway, right? I had to do everybody's job. I was cross training anyway. Why not just work towards supervisor or manager? I was just as capable, if not more capable, right? And responsible, even if it wasn't by my choice, than anybody else out there, right? So that was the one smart thing that I did. I always worked my way up the ladder really, really fast as I could, just so I wouldn't have to answer to others, so that I could be the boss. Not like I wanted to be the boss, not like I liked to be the boss, but I sure appreciated being the boss, because the only one you're answering to then is the owners of these companies, right? And because I was doing the very best that I could. They knew they couldn't find anybody better than me. Didn't stop them from riding me, for sure, but not as much as if I was just the, what do you call that? The grunt, the one on the bottom of the totem pole, right? That I wasn't appreciated in. But that was something that I was good at, was working my way up the ladder. And I always got supervisors and managing positions. If I didn't, I would take those positions that there would only be one or two people working the shifts. So it would be like me working as the boss anyway, kind of like when I was bartending and waitressing. So quite often there would only be a couple of us. If there wasn't enough customers, then we'd have a bartender and a waitress. So we would be friends, and it was like fun at work, right? Um, but for the most part, yeah, I'd always take those supervisor manager positions. Uh, So, which one do you sell your items on, Cindy? Oh, I do marketplace, Tammy. I sell my stuff on Facebook. So if you ever go into Facebook, you can go and find me. It's Prairie Dodgers on Facebook too. Oh no, it isn't. It's my main name on Facebook. But if you punch in Prairie Dodgers, you'll probably find me on Facebook too. And then yeah, you'll find my marketplace there. You can see all the things that I sell. Um, Auto, farming, tourism, railways, trucking, etc. What are you talking about there? Farming tours. I'm trying to think what Tammy's referring to in her comment about the farming and tourism. Maybe those are the positions and the jobs that you've been working at. You did those kind of jobs, railways, trucking. Uh, that's amazing, Cindy. Such attendance is a real accomplishment you can take pride in. Uh, right? But like I said, it was out of necessity, right? It was out of necessity of not wanting to be yelled at, having somebody say, no, you get into work. No, you can't. After I got the nerve up, because for me, that would have been absolutely horrible to have to phone my manager or the owner and say, I can't come into work today. Oh my goodness, that would have been just as bad as going in for a job interview, because you had a higher rate of getting yelled at, or somebody, because obviously they're going to be upset because somebody would have had to do my job if I didn't show up. And especially when I if I showed up, I was doing everybody, I just had to make sure I turn my soup off. If I was doing everybody's job on the most part anyway, that would be a big hit for the company. That's why I felt bad about leaving my last position, right? I felt really bad. I couldn't stay there anymore, right? The people that you work with are everything. They make the job. It's not just the customers. It's just not doing what you love. It's the people that you work with, right? And I can't work with with people who are not nice, right? People who take advantage of the fact that, right, they can, so they do. And I knew that my absence was going to make a difference in that company. And it's unfortunate, right? But I can't blame myself, but I did. I felt guilty and I felt really bad that I did that, right? But I didn't have any choice because in the lessons, one of the very first lessons is you have to set up your boundaries, right? And you have to do your very best to avoid these kind of people whenever possible, but I couldn't avoid these people. This person. It was only one person, but that one person just was, yeah, went for the jugular every time I walked in the door, right? But that's sensitives, highly sensitives and been passive. We get that all the time. You know, people ask me about my pink bangs, and I've had pink bangs. Oh my goodness, we are going back decades and decades. For the most part, I've only had pink bangs or purple bangs, but the pink bangs, I started using the pink bangs to give people a minute of thought, right? Because lots of times people can't control themselves when they're around sensitives or empathic people. Something in them irks them. And if they're having a bad day, they can sense your sensitivity, right? And if they're having a bad day, they're gonna take it out on somebody that they think will take it, right? That they think is inferior, that they should be feeling just as miserable as they do, right? But I found that if I dyed my bangs pink or purple, that that would give somebody, when they came up to me and they wanted to yell at me or say something not nice, right? They would see the pink bangs and they go, she's got a little bit of personality. Maybe I better not yell at her. Maybe I better not be mean. It wouldn't stop them from, right, saying something sometimes or giving you a look, but they were more than likely to zip it because of the bangs. It gives somebody an extra. Sometimes all you need is somebody to have 5 or 10 seconds to say, oh, maybe not, right? She's got some personality. She's going to come right at me. And it was also to their benefit, too, because you guys know I'm not one for turning the other cheek, right? If somebody is mean to me, I'm not going to be mean back, but I am going to be straight and I'm going to be forward and I'm going to let somebody know that what they did was inappropriate, was uncalled for. Because if I didn't, I had this mentality that these people would just go off and do it to somebody else, right? And so I had that mindset, and I am that person. I'm a lot better now, right? I understand people a little bit more, but I understood people back then that this was what was going on, right? I knew within a few seconds, like just look at their face, you could tell if somebody was a good person or a bad person. They could even be a good person having a bad moment. But when you only have a few seconds to make that assumption, right? And sometimes I would need a couple of sentences or a nasty look or something to be able to feel somebody's circumstances out. But it wouldn't matter because, abuse is still abuse. And this is the way I feel about it, right? And it has to be called out, it has to be dealt with in the moment because I am not taking a hit for letting somebody off the hook for being mean or saying something terrible to me or saying being mean or doing something terrible to somebody around me and turn the other cheek. And then they go off and do something to somebody else because now they're even more ticked. And then I would have to take a little bit of responsibility for that, right? I would have to be accountable to that in some way. And it's a terrible thing. You know, I've had it to happen to me so many times. You know, my best friend in high school, and I never had any friends in school, right? Not very many at the very least. But in my senior year, I got my very first friend, and we were best friends for the last 2 years of my high school. I'll never forget her. Her name was Linda Funk. She was super wonderful. Her mother had just passed away, and she was really getting it at school. Like I said, some people, they can see your sensitivities. They don't know why you're sensitive. They don't know why you're kind of off to the side or a little bit of wallflower or a little bit of a bookworm or a little geeky or something, right? And they just make these assumptions, and they just pick on them, right? But I remember I was out in the hallway of the school class in between classes, and all the girls had surrounded her, and there must have been about 20 or 30 girls surrounded her. And one of the girls took a lighter and lit her hair on fire, and her fire went up. You got to remember, this is the 70s, hairspray, right? Her hair just went up, poof. And everybody was laughing and staring at her. And I was on the outside of this big donut of people that were around her. And I just plowed right through all of them. And I started whacking her on, I started whacking her hard on the head. I eventually got this fire out on her head, but I thought this was just like the craziest thing. Like that girl and that woman, she wasn't a woman, it was a girl. She couldn't have been more than 15 or 16 years old, who lit her hair on fire. And she was one of the bullies in the school because she was somebody that I would try and find a different hallway or something if I saw her standing up against the lockers or something in the hallways. But, you know, uh, when I had done that, we got close in that moment, right? That she recognized that maybe, she had taken the side of some of the other girls that were picking on me at some point. And because I stood up for her, she stood up for me. And we became really, really good friends. Like I really got to the experience of um, real friends in my last 2 years of high school. And that was the first time something like that happened, where I made friends, not out of enemies, because I don't think she was an enemy of mine, but she certainly wasn't a friend. I didn't even know her. She was in my class. I didn't know anybody, right? They were people in my class, but nobody ever talked to me, right? But but when I was in grade school, I had Beverly Edwards. She was a big black Amazon, and she looked like she was 18 years old, but I don't think she was more than 12 years old because I remember I was still in grade school. I wasn't even in high school yet, so I couldn't have been more than 11 or 12. Oh, I wasn't 12 because I was in a different city at 12 years old. So I must have been 10 or 11 years old. So she must have been 11 at the very most, right? But she looked 18 years old. And every time I walked down the hallway, I remember she'd come up behind me and she would punch me upside the head or she'd punch me in the arm. And then I would see her walking up the hallway and I'd be like, oh my goodness, where do I go? Where can I like dive into a classroom or get a stairwell or something just to avoid this woman? Big, black, scary looking Amazon for sure, right? And I was walking home from school, and about six teenage girls jumped me. They just jumped me, and they were just pounding the poop out of me on the sidewalk on my way home from school. And this Beverly Edwards jumped in and beat them all up. They all went running, these girls. And the day after that, me and her were best friends. We were best friends for a couple of years until, right, we were always moving. I went to so many schools growing up, right? But I remember that, whenever I came back to Vancouver, I would always pick up where I left off with her because she was a very good friend. And her mother was beautiful. By the time she was 16 years old, she did have a couple of children, right? But she was so nice. But you never know, you know, who you can make friends with. And you might think like you're the odd, it's like that, right? The odd couple. And it's just about picking up in the gaps of each other, that you each have something valuable to bring to the relationship, right? Yeah, Beverly, I'll never forget her. She was absolutely beautiful. I know she ended up having the most wonderful life, right? Found herself a nice husband, had some more children. I'm sure she had more children, right? And I hope her mom is doing well. And I think she had a sister too, an older sister. I can't remember her sister's name, but yeah, she was a very good. But a lot of my friends started out like that, right? Where I would just be so flabbergasted that they even wanted to hang out with me because I thought I was so outcast from everybody, right? And again, being a sensitive, people pick that stuff up, right? They pick it up, and when they're in a bad mood, they're looking for people to give that to, right? I don't know if any of you guys were those sensitives in school where you get picked on all the time, but I most definitely was. And the saddest thing about that was that these people didn't know that I was getting it at home too, right? And when I was getting it at home, I had to be very careful that my mother didn't find out that I was fighting, right, at school because I didn't, right, there was nothing I could do about it. I didn't want to fight. I did, right, again, I'd stick up for myself and I'd stick up for others, but it wasn't my intent to do that. It's just like I had something over my forehead and said beat me up, right, start something. But it's been like that all my life. I still wear the pink bangs only because people still try that stuff. Be a little bit different now, I think, because people look at me as a mature person, right? So most people aren't like that. They're gonna, right? Because somebody will beat them up if they start beating on or being mean to somebody who is mature. I call it mature. I don't want to say old. I'm not quite there yet. Not in my mind, anyway. Um, there are some evil and cold people and bullies, etc. Thank you, Cindy, for sticking up for that poor girl and being mean to her. I have defended people all my life in school and as an adult. I think that is an amazing trait to have. That's a leadership trait in all honesty. And when people, right, they see that in you, they see the leadership in you. They see the smart in you. They see the strong in you. And what they're doing is they don't have that in them, but because they have friends standing behind them, maybe they got money, maybe they're the popular kids in the school, that they will try it, right? They will try it. But that's a great leadership trait to have, is when you do stick up for others, right? That's what the military does. It's the fire department. That's the police department. That's social workers. It's supposed to be the teachers, right? Yeah. I don't know where that story came from, but but it's interesting. But that's growing up, right? People don't recognize what people go through in their lives, right? And how it affects them. People don't understand how far kindnesses go, right? Like you divvy out a little bit of kindness and that stuff is remembered, right? Kindnesses are always remembered. I always remember the kindnesses in my life. Even in the people who didn't treat me well, I would recognize the kindnesses in them. It's kind of like making the excuse. I smell something burning. Nothing's on. Maybe it's coming from outside. This nose knows, right? This nose knows. Maybe somebody burnt something and it's coming out to the hallway or something. Uh oh, Kathy's here too. Hello. Hello, Kathy. Aw, I like that. But you are right. We have to stick up for each other. And what I was saying, yes, that treaty with Iran is getting signed, but there's still going to be those bad feelings and those, especially when people in your family are hurt or have been passed away because of it, that it's hard not to hold a grudge, right? And I don't know what country it is, but when you go to the mosques, when you go to the churches, they have the emblem in tile work for the most part on the floor in front of the entrances to the church. And before they walk into the church, they clean their shoes, right? As a just to compound the idea that these people are not good. And every country, right, has not good people. Just like in school, there are good kids and there are bad kids, and there are good kids that have bad moments. But at the same time, there are bad kids who have good moments too, right? Oh my goodness, I'm Beverly Edwards. Yeah. Freaked the poop out of me, right? Like I said, I was terrified and I would be black and blue every day. Sometimes she would search me out just so she could give me a good one. And I can remember she used to hit me here because she'd always walk on this side. She'd hit me here. My whole arm would be black and blue, right? And but yeah, she turned out to be a really, it was just her way of getting my attention is what it was. It's like sometimes people don't know how to start a conversation, so they talk about that weather, like me and that woman this afternoon, right? When she just started talking about the weather, and I just joined in on the conversation. Sometimes you don't know where to start, and with Beverly, it was always with a good punch. Yeah, that woman. I call her a woman because I'd always known her to look at her as a woman. Like I said, she was like, couldn't have been more than 11 years old, but she was tall, muscular, big boobs out already, and mine hadn't even started growing yet. Right? And she was scary looking. She was scary. And we have to remember too, right? Discrimination was still there, right? My parents let me have friends, let me choose my own friends, right? That was one thing about my mom and dad, right? They were so busy in their own lives. They had given us free choice as long as we didn't get into trouble. They didn't discriminate that way at all, but discrimination was still pretty, right? Like these name callings and racial things, they were still pretty prevalent in the 60s and 70s. I don't really think it was until closer to the end of the 80s and early 90s when we got past tolerance, right? We got past tolerance to acceptance. Yeah, but there wasn't a lot of black girls in my school, right? Later on in high school, there were a few, but only still a few. It wasn't like in the United States. Now it's a little bit different, but still, you know, there's still the minority, right? And I don't know why it is. Maybe we're too far north, but I know, when there was like slavery and stuff, like they would come up to Canada because we were a free country, right? But it didn't mean that discrimination wasn't around. Discrimination definitely was. When I grew up, like I said, I was from Vancouver, right? And in Vancouver, everybody's Chinese, right? Like there's more Chinese than Caucasians for sure, and but still that discrimination was still going on. That's the 60s and 70s when we were just starting in to tolerance of other nationalities, and that tolerance was kind of forced in the beginning, right? You didn't have much choice, or you would be in trouble because now laws were being set in place, right? It was, like I said, closer to the 80s and 90s before it became acceptable. Now we don't even pay attention in any way. Oh my goodness, like my nieces, her graduation, she graduated with all her best friends and they all went out and bought dresses together. And I should find a picture of that, and because I collect her pictures. I'm so proud of her. Like she's just an amazing girl, right? But she, whoopsie. um she had her friend groups, and not one of them was the same nationality. Like everybody was absolutely different. And then when you saw her graduation present, or her graduation pictures, it was absolutely incredible because there's no discrimination at all because everybody is so unique, right? So different, and you don't look at anybody for anything except your commonalities. So in your values and in the topics, and you know that you like. And it was here's a she just got invited to a wedding. This is my look at her friends. Look at her friends, right? Just like just everybody is just so unique and different, and there's no discrimination in any way. It's just, I don't know, I just think it's absolutely just beautiful, right? And oh, look at me, you guys. Look at this is when I first that's my mother's cat, Ginger. You couldn't even pick her up. And when I got her, she turned into the most beautiful cat. Instantly, she was affectionate. Like you couldn't go near her. When she was my mother's cat, she'd be swatting and hissing, and you couldn't get near her even to give her a little pet or anything. My mother's arms were all scratched up. She really didn't like my mother in any way. But when I got her, I picked her up and hugged her. And she was just a beautiful cat. And I had that cat for years and years. Like I didn't want to take the cat. My cat had just passed away. It was a different cat, but this was a long time ago when my mother passed away. I didn't want to take the cat, but my sisters again were so heartbroken, right? And I says, okay, I'll take the stupid cat, right? I'll take the stupid cat. I ended up loving that cat. And that cat lived to be 21 years old. It lived a long time. It was pretty sick at the end, but 21 years old. And since that cat, I had two other cats after that cat, right? And yeah, I've always had cats my entire life. My parents always made sure that I had a cat. It's cats calm your system down. That's the way I see it. Some people like dogs, right? I don't know if you guys are dogs or cat people. Dogs are a lot of work, but they're more loyal, they're more understanding, they're more like a human being than cats are. But I really related to cats my entire life. I've had a lot of cats. But then again, I'm 65 years old now. I've probably had maybe 8 or 10 cats. And if you think each cat lives to be 10 years old, that's well, I'm not 80 years old. But I did get some cats later on. I did a lot of adopting of cats, finding a stray, and it's okay, you're my cat. You're a cat person, Owen? Yeah, I like cats too. I've always been a cat person. Um, oh, Kathy's a cat person too. And you're right. Cats do take care of themselves, don't they? When I used to go camping for a couple of days here and there, you could just fill up a bowl of water and a big bowl of cat food, and you could go away for a couple of days, no problem. You can't do that with a dog. Mind you, if you had a dog, I guess you could probably take the dog with you, right? You have cats that you feed every day. So you're talking about strays, Owen, that you take care of stray cats? Yeah, but that's what I would do. I would go down to the Humane Society if I ever needed a cat. I'd go, "Oh, you do? Oh, that's beautiful, Owen. I love that. That's a beautiful trait. That says a lot about you, Owen, that you're that type of person that would take care of the cats like that. I don't like to see the animals suffering in any way. When I go for my walks, I'm always stopping, trying to get the birds to come and hang out with me and stuff. I'm feeding the animals. The other day, I went for a walk. Well, I took a bus to one of the stations, but you kind of have to walk a little ways to get to where I wanted to go. And I walked by this Ukrainian church. I only know it was a Ukrainian church because it was abandoned, and right beside the old abandoned church, excuse me, they were making a new one, and you can see the onion domes on the top, right? But laying on in the tall grass of the abandoned church, I saw a goose, right? And it was by itself. And I feel kind of bad when I see the adult goose by themselves, because that means usually that they've lost their partner, and especially if it's an adult goose, right? But it could have been a young adult, but it was a big goose, right? And I had these little bit of a, I don't know if you guys know what sesame snaps are. They're made of honey and sesame seeds, and they make them into little sheets. And I like munching on those. They're a great little going for a walk treat because they're healthy and stuff. And so when I walked by, I was giving the goose. I called the goose over. I thought I would have to throw it to him. He came right over to me and took the sesame snap right out of my hand. I thought, oh, that is so neat. So I know lots of times the geese, they get hand fed by people in the parks and stuff like that. So maybe they are used to people. But this goose was all by itself. I don't know if it was hungry. There was lots of tall grass and stuff around for it to eat. But it came right up to me and took the sesame snap right out of my hand. I thought, oh, that's pretty cool. But I'm like that all the time with the wildlife that I come across. But I don't come across a lot birds usually. Squirrels, yeah, and I come across the squirrels too, right? But that's pretty much it when you live in the city. Uh, People here, they feed a family of rabbits that live in the back of our building. And they've been doing it for a very long time. And they've been taking care of these rabbits. And these rabbits, they breed so that there's lots of them. Plus, they got all the bird feeders and everything all attached to the fences outside. So there's lots of birds and rabbits around our building. But the thing is, the neighborhood cats know that there's lots of rabbits here, and every once in a while, I'll see a cat that's kind of squashed on the road because I live on a main drag, right? So there's a lot of traffic, and one of my favorite cats that I used to stop and pet all the time, a couple of times I noticed that he was coming across the street, and it would make me really nervous. And then all of a sudden I haven't seen that cat for a year. I don't know if the people moved or maybe he was one of these cats that got squashed on the road. But you're on a busy road, it gets squashed. But then after about a half an hour, about 20 or 30 cars running over it, you can't tell what kind of cat it was, what it looked like or anything anymore, right? But it kind of made me feel bad. It kind of made me think, like these people shouldn't be like feeding these rabbits because like I said, the cats are going yum yum yum. Let's go over to this building and go hunting rabbit, right? So I kind of felt bad about that. Uh Yeah, I don't take care of the cats. There's not a lot of cats in our neighborhoods because, like I said, most people will keep their cats in their apartments. We don't have a lot of houses, but if you go past the back lane, then it comes more residential where there's more houses and the cats kind of roam around outside. They let them out on their porch and stuff, and they just kind of roam around. But if they know we got rabbits right across this busy street, at night they'll take a shot at running across the street just to have some fun for an hour or so hunting rabbits, right? Yeah. I've seen it happen a few times, but most for the most part people keep their cats in their apartments, right? They're not outdoor cats. Mind you, I did come across a cat today. I when I was walking home, I was walking by some old apartment buildings, some really old, like from the late 1800s, early 1900s. And I always love to look at these buildings because I love architecture, especially old architecture. And I heard a meow and I looked down and I could barely see this cat because it was pure black and it was sitting in the windowsill on the main floor. The window was wide open and I'm talking to the cat and stuff. But then I could hear some dishes going on inside. I went, oh my goodness, okay, keep walking. Yeah, right, because you're invading somebody's privacy, even though you're stopping just to chit chat to the cat in the window. But the cat stopped me. I didn't stop the cat. I didn't even know it was there until it started talking to me though. But it was kind of funny because then I heard the dishes, right? And I went, oh. And then I just carried on. Oh, Earl's here. Hello, Earl. How have you been doing, dear? I haven't heard from you in a while. It's nice to see you. I'm glad that you popped in so we know that everything is good. Everything's good? Your cats are indoor and outdoor. How many cats do you have, Earl? How many cats do you have? I don't think I could do more than one cat. My sister Tracy had four cats at one point, and then just one after another, they just kind of passed away. And then she ended up getting another kitten. So she only has two cats, but she lives in an apartment now. she sold her house. I keep meaning to go up where her house was. She had a beautiful, beautiful house. She only paid $160,000 for it. She sold it only five or 6 years later. She sold it, and she got almost $700,000 for this house. That's how much housing went up. But her house, even though it was great land, great big huge trees, right? My brother-in-law had built like ponds and creeks and stuff in the backyard. It was a beautiful property, but the house was from like the 1970s, and I know in that neighborhood they buy up the houses and then they build like $1 million house in the same spot. Like in her my sister's where my sister lived, all her neighbors' houses were worth well over $1 million for sure. My sister didn't work on the house. Like they put a new roof on, they did painting and fix these troughs and stuff, did a little bit of landscaping, but they didn't do an awful lot. Like when you walked into the house, well, they changed all the lighting too because all the lighting was from the 1970s, but they didn't do a lot of work on the inside on the inside of the house. So it still looked very much like you walked in, you knew it was from the 1970s. So I'm pretty certain whoever bought that house tore it down to build something else. But I'd like to see what that something else is. I'm not up in that neighborhood very often anymore. I used to ride my bike up there all the time, at least once or twice a week, to visit my sister and stuff, to clean her house or cook her dinner or to sit and watch Big Brother with her or work out in the garden. Oh my goodness, it was so much fun. I really loved hanging out with my sister up at that house. But that house got to be pretty hairy, scary, right? Like she made her home into a very dynamic household herself. It became a little bit difficult, especially when I started waking up to my own ideas that I just couldn't handle that kind of energy for sure. But yeah, she sold that house. She did really well for herself, especially now, right? Because she's not working right now and she's not technically supposed to be retiring even for another year and a half, right? But I think she's pretty much retired. She's pretty much retired now with everything that she's gone through in the past half a dozen years. So I think that probably it was a good thing that she sold the house because even though her husband got half, right? She had a house husband. He never worked a day. He worked like on the yard and in the house, but he never had a job, right? My brother-in-law never had a job. He was a house husband. What a life he had. Oh my goodness. And all the toys and stuff that she bought him, the holiday. Oh, she treated him like a king. And he got half, more than half, right? Because he got the farm too. Yeah. But she got enough money in the end that she's got enough to live on, right? To tie her over that she can have a comfortable life until well, as long as she needs to. There's one thing that she doesn't have to worry about is putting a roof over her head. And she can create a little life for herself, right? But I'd like to see her getting a little bit healthier, right? That her life starts sorting out a little bit. She's working at getting her driver's license. Yes, they took her driver's license away from her because her eyes went from off on her because of her diabetes. So they took her driver's license away, but she's got glasses now. She's had fluids drained from them, and she's working at getting her driver's license back. So hopefully that happens really fast, especially for summer, going into summer, right? That she can have like her mobility, right, to go off and do the things that she wants and not have to depend on people for rides, right? If anybody gets what she's going through, I get what she's going through, right? It's like getting your knees or your legs cut off at the knees when you're not able to have a vehicle, right? But she's still got her vehicle. She just let my brother-in-law drive it around for a little while, right? Because it runs a little bit better than his, and if she's not driving it, he might as well, right? And but yeah, hopefully in the next couple of weeks she'll have her driver's. I messaged her a couple of days ago. I haven't heard back from her yet though, but hopefully she's got her driver's license back. And if you guys want to throw her a little prayer, that would be much appreciated too, right? She's had it pretty rough. She's gone through the ringer, and she's come out of it every single time. My sister never ever, when I say I never give up, my sister Tracy, she never gives up ever, right? And in my struggles, I wouldn't trade my struggles for a million of her struggles. Like, or even one of her struggles. Like she's really had it tough, right? But we all have problems, right? We all have problems. We all have handicaps, whether it's physical, mental, or emotional. We all got things that we deal with, right? We all do. Each one of us are unique, so it makes sense that our problems would all be unique to ourselves, right? Yeah, I had pea soup tonight. I was very grateful for my pea soup, and it was delicious. I may make it. I may make it again. Aw, thank you, Tammy. I appreciate that. Put her on your list. Put her on your prayer list there for me. Yeah, I appreciate that. Oh, you guys, did I keep up with the comments tonight? Wait. Andrew says, I live in a place with too much traffic for cats. Also, our apartments are too small for pets, though some neighbors do have dogs and cats. Yeah, when it's small, that's kind of sad, right? Because they really do need to be active, especially dogs. Like, at the very least, to be able to get outside a few times a day, not to let your dogs wait for 8 or 9 hours until they can get dad or mom to come home to take them for a walk so they can have their pee. Like, that's a long time to hold your bladder, even for a dog, right? That's really hard. And lots of people do that because, when people work, you got an hour of travel time, you got an 8-hour shift, right? And then you might have to stop off and buy groceries on the way home, and right, so you're gone for like 10 hours. That's a long time to let your dog hold their bladder. Mind you, I did see those daycare buses for the dogs where the dogs have their little backpacks, and the buses pull up in front of somebody's house, and the dogs run to the bus, and they're super excited to go to daycare because they all have their little seats on the bus and everything. And I think, oh my goodness, what a great entrepreneurial business to have, right? A doggy daycare. And like these dogs, you could just tell they are super excited to go to daycare, right? Just the way that they're just excited and waiting for the bus to show up in front of their house. Yeah, pretty neat. Oh my goodness, we're going on 9 o'clock already. Um, yes, you did, Cindy. That's great, Cindy, that you kept up on all the comments. Way to go there. I did keep up on the comments. I'm all proud of myself. Some people do have pee pads for dog. Oh, yeah, you're right. Right. It's not really the same if the dogs can't kind of kick with their hind legs at the dirt and the grass, right? It's that little bit of outdoor time. But yeah, you're right there. The pee pads that they people buy for their dogs. I'm not sure if the dogs always use them. Cats aren't even proper like that, right? You can always smell when a cat has found a place in the house to consistently go to the bathroom, right? And that smell is hard once it starts. Like sometimes it's a carpet, like that corner of the carpet that they use all the time, and you can just doesn't matter how much you scrub those spots, you can always smell it when you walk into the house. Yeah, it smells like grandma's house. I remember that smell, my grandma's house. Okay. Oh, you saw those too, Tammy? Yeah, they're really cute. Those buses. You guys, that was a Sunday yibber yabbering for like an hour and a half, and I kept up with the comments. I think I last week I kept up on the comments too. I think I did pretty good. I have to or I'm gonna have to say I'm getting a little bit better. I'm getting a little bit better. Lots of times I go into those flows and I just and the next thing you know it's 9 o'clock and I haven't even had a chance to look at the comments and then I'm backtracking and then I'm doing another 10 or 15 minutes, right? Just to at least acknowledge all the people who are so kind enough to come in. I appreciate the almost the entire crew showed up tonight. I appreciate you guys. Oh my goodness. You guys want to give me a thumbs up if you haven't given me the thumbs up yet? For those of you who pop in later, right? Say hi down in the comments. Let me know that you came in and if you ever want to pop in during the live, you guys can tell I got a crew here. I really do and I appreciate all of you guys. Okay, you guys, I'll be back tomorrow, 9 p.m. Central, if you want to come in and hang out. What's my good cheer? And if not, I'm going to be doing an Instagram. I don't know what kind of Instagram, if I'm going to go live or if I'm going to make a little video or if I'm going to do a couple of shorts. I don't know. But I committed to showing up on Instagram and I have not done that in a long time. So keep your eye. I know Kathy used to hang out with me on Instagram, so keep an eye out and see what I post. I don't know what I'm going to do. I'll be giving it some thought tomorrow what I'm going to do because if I'm going to do a little video or something, I'm going to have to go film something. If not, I might do an interview with my friend Pearl from the Philippines. I haven't talked to her for a while, but if I do that, then I have to message her and let her know that I'm going live on Wednesday so I can find a good time that works for her too. And then we can show up live. I may come in and just pull a card, right? Who know? I don't know what I'm going to do, right? It can't be fly by the seat of your pants. So I'm going to have to do some thinking. I'm working on it tomorrow. But if you want to come in on Wednesday, I will be on Instagram on Wednesday. I'll probably show up and still do my What's My Good Cheer on Wednesday night, but I'll still be here. Or I'll see you guys next Sunday. You guys have a great night, and we'll see you next week. Bye, everybody.